is awareness for a few things. As we all know, most of us know it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but it is actually also Pregnancy and Infancy Loss Month. And so I want to talk to these ladies because they have experienced this and have gotten through it through their relationship with Jesus. And so I admire them so much. And if you actually follow us on our Instagram page, you'll see that I've actually shared that I too have had a miscarriage, and talking to them and actually just watching what they did and how they got through this through their social media page has really helped me. And I really am so happy to have Shanay and Jeanie on with us today. Hi, ladies.
Hey.
All right. Thank you. Like I said, thank you so much for being on with us. I know this topic is hard, but it's so necessary to talk about. And so let's get started. I wanted to start off with this quote. So I didn't know that this was actually like October was pregnancy and infancy loss month. I didn't know that until one
Yeah.
of our mutual friends, Jeannie, posted about that. Justina, and I said, "Oh wow, I have to talk," because I've been wanting to talk about this,
Mhm.
and I thought this was a perfect time to talk about it. So on October 25th, 1988, President Reagan designated this entire month of entire month of October as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. He said on that day, when a child loses his parents, they are called an orphan. When a spouse loses his or her partner, they're called a widow or a widower. When parents lose their child, isn't a word to describe them. This month recognizes the loss for so many parents experienced across the United States and around the world. It is also meant to inform and provide resources for parents who have lost children due due through miscarriage, ectopic pregnancy, molar. I don't even know what that is. Molar pregnancy, stillbirths, birth defects, SIDS, and other causes. And so, I never really thought about President Reagan. I'm not going to lie to you, but I appreciate him declaring that this month is that awareness month. And so, um,
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and so we can get started. So, when you anyone can start. Tell us your story. Like, tell us who you are and why you're here. You want to go
Sure.
first?
Okay. Sure. Sure. Thank you. Well, I'm Jeannie, and it's amazing. I say this often. Like, when you're growing up, you never think it's gonna be you. Like, you hear about stories like this, and you don't think it'll be your story.
Yeah.
And for those of people who are familiar with me, I from the hood in Brooklyn, and then kind of found solace in music, and became a pop star, and then came to Jesus. Like all these monumental things happened to me before I was even 20, one. And
Mm.
I come to Jesus, and I'm like, I realize this is it. God is the answer to all this other stuff that didn't work out. Like, money's great, but it doesn't fulfill you. Music's great, doesn't fulfill you. Men's great, but they don't fulfill you. And then you come to Jesus, and you're full, and you're filled. And I got married, and then I'm like, I'm gonna change the world. Me and my husband, we're a team. We're gonna
Mm.
go out and change the world. And we didn't really think about children yet. We knew God had put us together, and we just, you think in your head, well, that's the natural progression. First comes love,
Mm.
then comes marriage, then comes Jeannie with a baby carriage, right? um but we were doing ministry for a whole bunch of years, the beginning of our relationship. So we weren't really thinking about the carriage part. And then 7 years, we waited 7 years into our marriage, and we left New York City, we moved to Florida, and instantly it was like something was birthed. It was awakened in us. We were like, it's time for us to become parents. We felt God. My husband's a pastor, and we really felt God leading us to try for children. And our 7th year anniversary, we're like, we'll start, right now.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
we started. And I got pregnant right away. I know a lot of people, for them, it's hard to even conceive. For me, that wasn't my journey. I got pregnant within maybe 2 months of trying. And, you find out you're pregnant and you do the reveal, you show your parents, all these things that you
Mm-hmm.
film and you want everybody's reaction. And it's just like, and then, I went to the doctor, my first doctor's appointment, and you go in and they do the sonogram and the nurse doesn't say anything, and you're like, what's going
Mm.
on, like, I see something, like, tell me. She's like, oh, I can't say anything, wait till the doctor comes in. And for anybody that's been through this type of loss, that is the most traumatizing. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't think I've ever talked about that part, but that's the worst thing to hear,
Mm-hmm.
I should have brought tissue too.
Girl, I wish I could give you some.
I know.
I'll give you a hug too if I could.
And at that time I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that meant. Um and then the doctor comes in and this lady had no bedside manner. She
Oh
basically was
wow.
like, "So there's no heartbeat. What do you guys want to do?" It was
Wow.
just, it
Matter
didn't
of
matter.
fact,
This was my,
just
yeah, it was like, and then I'm a believer. So I'm like, listen, Jesus rose Lazarus from the dead. He could give my baby a heartbeat. Like, I kind of, I took that stance. And, just being from New York, and I've always been that kind of fighter, you got to fight. Um, so I just figured this was another attack. This is another hurdle, but, we believe in God. And I kind of delayed going back to the doctor. I'm like, I'm going to wait 4 more weeks and I'm going to pray and I'm going to believe for resurrection life in my womb. And, in that time, it's awful. Anyone who's lost a kid, if you're watching this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It feels like death. When you lose a kid, a part of you is lost. And that's what it felt like. And I was just holding on to the hope that maybe a miracle would happen, and a miracle didn't happen. But
mm-hmm.
something in my faith did change. It kind of reignited the idea that I could believe for a miracle. I think before that I was kind of like, oh, maybe God does miracles. But through that I was like, God does miracles, I believe.
Right.
And even though he didn't give me my miracle in that moment, it did awaken my faith. So I could understand. I'm like, okay, God, there's a plan. Then we try again. Um, Couple months after, and same thing happened. Um, no heartbeat. I want to say something about the first time I was pregnant, because I know there's a lot of controversy about when a baby is a baby. But I'm gonna be
Ah,
honest. I
yes.
never felt like a mother before I became pregnant. And I've mothered many people. I've raised a lot of people. When you're a pastor's wife, you mother a
Yeah.
lot of people too. But
Yeah.
the moment I became pregnant with my first child, I instantly, something in me became alive, and I knew that I was carrying a baby. I
I'm
knew
glad
that
you
it
said
was
that.
life.
Yeah.
It was just reality, like, and it's why I'm kind of passionate about. I could even kind of go a little further with that now with people, because I'm like, nah, you can't tell me that it's not a baby, because the moment that I became pregnant and something in me shifted, I became a mother. I knew I was carrying a life. So then it happened again, second time, no heartbeat. I was like, God, I'm believing, you
Hmm.
told us. He told us. Why would God tell us to try for a family and us not get the baby? Didn't happen. We waited a year and we tried again. And same thing happened. And, every time was devastating. Every time was
Yeah.
traumatizing. Going to the doctor, even through my recent miracle, um, every time I went to the doctor, I was
Yeah.
traumatized. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I didn't know what I was gonna hear. But three miscarriages. We were just like, okay, God has something different for us. And my husband, I do want to touch on this too, because us as women, we go through it, and I know all of us, we're mothers. Like the way we feel it is something, but I never anticipated it would affect my husband the way it did.
Yeah.
And he was like literally not trying. He was like, I'm never doing this again. Like, we are never
Mm.
doing this again. Because he's like, not only am I losing my kids, but every time I lose a kid, I could lose you. You
Ooh.
know, and it was just, it was detrimental for him. I wasn't having miscarriages. The babies were not growing in my womb, and I wasn't able to release them. So I had to
Mm.
either get them surgically removed or take a medication to, and I did both ways, and both ways were so traumatizing.
Yeah.
You know, I kept, every time I went to get it surgically removed, I'm like, people choose to do this. That was mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
The trauma that I went through, and I'm like, people are choosing to do this, and here I am, like, Lord, why? You know, I'm just being real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I did a pill, you know, where it kind of induces labor and the pain that you go through to release your child. I mean, I
It's a
know we're getting
lot,
kind of graphic, but
but it's a
it's just
lot.
a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, here I am, you know, I'm like, I knew God was still good. I'm not gonna lie. I questioned him. Yes, I did. I wrestled with God. It really strengthened my faith with God, because before this, I
Mm.
was just like, Jesus is awesome. He saved me. Like, we good. And then I'm just like, but he told me to do this. And then why would he not do this?
The
And here I am
trials.
suffering.
Yeah.
And it nearly killed me and my husband. Luckily, we have a relationship with God, because we would have been divorced, because it's like, what the heck's the point of us? Like, if we
Mm.
can't have kids, then what's the point of us? Like, straight up. And you know, all of those we wrestled with God, and that was for years. And then last year, the very end of last year, my husband was like, I feel like God is telling us to try again at the beginning of
Mm.
this year.
Wow.
And I had been feeling like that, but I'm like, we're in the middle of adopting. We started to sign up to adopt, which we
Really?
still will do. Yeah. We got approved. We're like, we get a baby room ready, because we're gonna foster first. And then my husband says that to me, and I'm like, all right, Lord, like, it's on you. You know, what am I gonna do? Every time I try, I trust you. It doesn't work out, but I'll try again. I'm crazy, apparently. I tried again, and
Trust him.
the first time we tried, I got pregnant, and just last month, a month ago yesterday, I had a baby boy, my miracle boy. And you know, I know, so, like, I knew God was a God of miracles. I know that when he promises something, he answers, but
Yeah.
I've never known it as real as I do now. Like, I stare at my son all day. I'm just like,
As you should.
you are an answer to prayer. Not only my prayer, so many people prayed. Um, and then, you know, with each one of my losses, God spoke to me. You know, the first loss, he named my baby. He gave the baby the name Isa. I had a dream. I was signing a certificate. That was the baby's name. I'm like, what the heck does that mean? I
Wow.
Googled the name. The name meant Jesus in Arabic. That day, I find out my baby's dead.
Mm.
And I just said, God, why? Why would you give me that dream? Why would I be pregnant? All of this. And all I sensed the Lord saying back was, I named the baby after me. I just wanted you to know I have the baby. I named the
Wow.
baby after me. Second, second one, I just heard the Lord say, my grace is sufficient. My grace is sufficient. So we named that baby Emery Grace. The third baby, I was just like, you know what? I don't know what you're doing, Lord. Straight up.
Yeah.
The gloves
Yeah.
came off, and I
Right.
wrestled with God. So we named him Israel, because Israel means wrestling with God. But I
Hmm.
learned that it's okay to wrestle with God when you're going through hard things. God doesn't
Yes.
abandon you when you're going through hard things. He doesn't abandon you when you say, why, God? He sits with you, and he'll help bring some kind of comfort, or he'll give you a word, or he'll walk you through it. And he did. And my third miscarriage, I heard a message preached about Lazarus, how Lazarus was dead for 3 days. But on the fourth day, he was resurrected when Jesus went to the tomb. And after I heard that message, Jesus told me, I felt the Holy Spirit telling me, what I'm doing in you is a day 4 miracle. See,
Mm.
if I would have healed Lazarus, you wouldn't be talking about him today. If I would have rose him from the dead on the first day, it wasn't that big of a miracle because rigor mortis hadn't set in yet. But on the fourth day, it was impossible for anybody to be resurrected from the dead. So on the fourth day, we rose him. I rose him. And on the fourth day, he's like, and I will give you a fourth day miracle. And this is before I knew that my fourth pregnancy would be my child.
Wow.
So now I know I got a day 4 miracle, and that's my little baby. And I haven't even said his name yet publicly, but I will here. His name is Elijah Lorenz Law, and it's a name that me and my husband picked out when we were dating 12 years ago, and it just means I lift up my eyes to the Lord, and as the Lord is my God. Or God is my Lord. And it's Elionai and Elijah, and we combine the names. Nobody else in the whole world has it yet, but he has it. And when I got pregnant this time, even though I didn't know my baby would survive, God told me, that's your baby's name, Elionai.
Wow.
It's his name. And so, in obedience, we named him that. And I know, obviously, if God allowed him to be here, God wanted us to give him that name. I know that it's for a purpose. And I just want people out there to know that, God does answer his promises. They don't look like we think they should.
Yeah.
I think about this month being, miscarriage and pregnancy loss, and we call these babies rainbow babies. And, when we see the rainbow, it was the Noah's Ark. And a flood came before that, and a lot of death happened before that. But God's promises are still true, and they still come through. So for all of you that are still waiting on your rainbow miracle, your rainbow baby, I believe wholeheartedly that God is a God of miracles, that he answers his promises, and I believe he'll do that for you. So
Yes. Amen.
Amen.
Woo.
Woo.
Shanay.
Y'all keep it together over here. Elijah. Come on, Jesus. Come on.
Right.
Day 4 miracle. I felt that in my spirit. Hold on.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So I'm Shanay. We had a wonderful little girl named Heaven Renee. Heaven Renee was born April 18, 2018. I carried her full term, 40 weeks, everything. I had a wonderful pregnancy. I ate what I want. I did what I want. Every doctor's report came back amazing. I didn't, it was nothing wrong, nothing. Went into labor. It was my first pregnancy, so went in a little later than normal. Pregnancy was going fine, and then in a split second, something happened. We were in the delivery room, and you go from one doctor to about 20. It happened that quick. I was in the delivery room with my husband. Actually, my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law were in there as well, and it just got real quick. And they kept saying, push, push, push. And I'm not going to go into several details, but all I knew is my husband dropped to the floor, and he was praying. He was going in. Next thing you know, I'm pushing the baby out. They're like, you got to get the baby out. So fast forward, they get the baby out, and they're like trying to scoop. She's not breathing. She is breathing. Literally, I think they tapped her to my shoulder, and they snatched her away like in 2 seconds. So I really never got to hold her. They snatched her that quick. They were doing something. They were performing CPR on her. Next thing you know, they're like, she's going to the NICU. I don't know what's going on. Now I'm on the bed. Blood pressure is going up. They're like, you have to calm down. I'm bleeding. I'm not going to get graphic. Basically, I was near death. But I was so consumed with what just happened to my child that I was not caring about me. I'm like, take me. I don't care. Like, where's my baby? They're not saying anything. They're like, Shanay, you have to do this. Obviously, I'm still here by the grace of God. And so they take the baby. They get me back to where I need to be. They say she's in the NICU. And then they go, we have to medevac her out. These words I don't know. Medevac, NICU. So they have to,
what's that?
Exactly. They have to medevac her to a specialist hospital. And we have a national, I'm near to DC, so there's a National Children's Hospital here, and they medevac her there. and they're saying she took in too much stuff and she's not breathing properly, so they had her on tubes, all of this. So baby's born, I don't see her. I'm like, get me out. They're like, you can't leave. I'm like, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go see my
Right.
child. So me with stitches and everything in me, I go to Children's Hospital right away. Like they couldn't hold me. I was like, I'm signing out. I was like, if it's a hospital, they can treat me while I'm in there with my daughter, right? And I get there and they have my daughter in tubes and her eyes are not open. She's just wrapped up in everything. And I had never been to Children's Hospital, right?
Yeah.
And on the way in, you're passing baby after baby after baby after baby, and families in this way where they're, it's just you don't like to see it, right? And I'm just passing through the wilderness of fear, and you're like, what? And I think everything was happening so fast, I didn't have time to think. I didn't really have time to take it in. I think I was in a state of shock. And it just kept happening. And I'm seeing my baby and I'm looking. And so I didn't have time to break down or anything. I think I just was in shock. And my husband was with me the whole time. And he's just like, take it easy, this and that. So I'm fast forwarding through some courts, but she ends up having to stay. And they're like, we're going to ice her. Stuff I never heard. They're going to cool her for 3 days. So they like put her on literally like ice and cooling. They want to cool the brain to take out the swelling, because babies, when they come out, they're chunky, swollen. So they're going to cool her in 3 days and see if the brain starts functioning. They put all these things on her head, all these things on her body to see if she would react. And once the cooling was over, so we had 3 days to play. So I, like you, was thinking, Lazarus, let's try this. After this cooling, God, she's about to come out, and this was all a joke, and whatever. 3 days, guess what? She didn't. So she's still sleeping in my head, and she's not doing anything. But I'm like, I'm believing God. I'm like, God, you can do this. We're not giving up. This is my baby. I birthed her, I carried her all this time. Why you would not let me carry her to lose her? So we're like praying. So then my husband implements the no doctor in the room rule. I say it like that because that day, nobody was going to speak over our child death. They were going to speak over our child diagnoses that were not from God. They were not going to speak over our child anything we didn't want. So anytime they came to visit, they could come evaluate her, and they had to step out the room to tell us anything that they had to do about the baby. We didn't want it in the atmosphere. So we had healing scriptures on. We had worship music. We was saturating that room with whatever healing power we could do, and they couldn't come in. And on that fourth day, I will tell you, it started setting in, right? Because 3 days after, guess what starts happening to the mom? I'm starting to get milk. I'm starting to mother, right? I still have stitches and all this, and now start sitting in like, I can't feed my baby. What am I doing with this milk? Like, so I'm going not crazy, but I'm losing it. And my husband goes, no more, the doctors can't talk to you. So basically, from there on, they were only speaking to him. He was giving me time to grieve and like pray and really seek God. And this went on for days, and I would not go home. So I would not go home. I did not go home for 10 days straight. I was by her bed. I was showering in the hospital. They were seeing me and like, I didn't care. I started pumping milk because I believed God was going to do it. I'm pumping milk on milk, and I'm telling you, some people can't pump milk. And I had so much milk, they was like, Miss Howard, you're overflowing the freezers. I'm like, well, my baby gonna need this milk, so I'm gonna keep pumping. I'm gonna keep doing this. And fast forward, I'm gonna go to day 16. That's how we was in there. Every day people came and they prayed with her, and we were ministering to our neighbors that were around us. And guess what started happening? The baby to the left of us, we ministered to that couple. They went home. The baby to the right of us, we ministered to that couple. They went home. So we're like, God, you're doing it for people around us. You're surrounding us with these miracles. And they came to us 16, and they were like, listen, her brain cells are depleting, and she's not responding to treatment and all this stuff. And we were like, okay, what does God say? And they were like, listen, you have to make a decision. Are you going to take her off of the breathing tube? or you're going to do this. And if you take her off the breathing tube, she's not going to breathe more than a couple of minutes, and then she's going to pass. So my husband and I prayed. We went out the room, and they were like, "What are you going to do?" And we were like, "Take her off." The Lord told us to take her off. And we weren't saying take her off because we thought she was going to go. We're saying take her off because you're about to see a miracle doctor. So they said you have 5 minutes, and I was like, take her off. God told us we're going to get longer time. He's going to show us a miracle, and we really believed it. They took my child off. It was the first time that I got to hold my child in 16 days without tubes. She breathed on her own for 20 hours. 5 minutes into the next day, she's breathing. No tubes. I had her in my hands, no tubes, no nothing. I went home for the first time because God said, go home, take a shower, get ready, and come back. So I went home. It was May 4th. The May 5th, we come back. They're calling me. They're like, you need to get here. Her breathing is starting to slow down. And so I said, okay, we're coming. Rushed back to the hospital, and her breathing was slowing. And God said, I gave you that miracle because I'm fully going to heal her. And he did. And she had to go because he was going to fully heal her. And I know we pray for healing. And healing doesn't look like the way we want it to look. But these doctors were saying, if she lives, she's not going to be able to talk. She's not going to be able to walk. She's not going to be able to do this. And for me and my husband, us seeing her breathe and God performing that miracle in the tragedy, right? The miracle inside the tragedy, it was beautiful. So when I went on the 5th and they handed me heaven and they said, do you want a pastor to come in? Or I said, no, I just want to sit with my daughter. And it's when you say you know God, I experienced God like I've never experienced him before. I held my daughter in my hand as she took her last breaths, and you would think I would lose it. But when I say the peace and the comfort of God surrounded me as she breathed her last breath and went into heaven, it was like something you only read about, right? You only experience it, and I did not lose it because I was like, wow, this is God comforting. This is God taking her. What it's like when you're going to see her, see him. And so that happened. And it was a process. And like you said, husbands grieve differently. My husband was very silent. And I didn't know because he was trying to think about me and everything. Yeah. That time we went away. We had to shut in. Like literally, we went to a cabin. We went away. We couldn't, we shut down the world to seek God because we had those why. Like I went through grief, anger, all that. Like, why God? Why would you do this? Like, why do I have to be? Then I went from why would you do this to why do I have to be the example? I don't need to be the example. So, like, why do I have to carry the mantle, Lord? I didn't want to carry the mantle. I've done nothing good for you, Lord. Right? I've served you faithfully. I'm in ministry. We're both in ministry. Like you said, we're going to change the world. Right, Jeannie? We're going to change the world. This is me and my husband. We're going to do this for God and all this. God, you have all these people watching us, and you're going to do this. Yeah. That's the question, right? That's what came. And we had to get to a point, like, are we going to trust him or are we not? And we went away for 14 days, back to back 14 days. So we went to a cabin for 14 days, and then we left the country for 14 days. And in both of those times, the Lord showed us heaven. And like little things, like we were in Bermuda, and literally we get there, and they were like, heaven is here. It was a sign. I took a picture. It said that. We're in the mountains, and God said, this is not the end of your story. And I'm like, what? And the Lord just kept restoring us every time in those places, in those secret places. We had to seek him, and we were healing, and people couldn't understand. They thought we were going to lose our mind. Like they couldn't get it. They're like, and we're like, listen, the Lord said this is not the end. We're going to do this. Literally, 11 months later, right? If it's not 11 months. No, not 11 months. I'm saying 11 months. 11 months later, I gave birth to a child. But weeks, 13 weeks, I want to say, 11, I don't even know how far apart they would be. Anywho, I get back in the country, I go to the doctor for my follow-up appointment. And they say, did y'all plan it? I said, plan what? We're not planning for you're pregnant. I said, there's no way. There's no way. Well, I know how babies come. But I'm gonna tell you, we were grieving, so I don't know how that happened. I really don't remember.
Wait, are you serious?
So
you're saying you didn't have sex?
No, we had sex at some point, but not like one time, maybe one time.
It wasn't planned.
It wasn't planned. Maybe one.
Maybe once, right? In Bermuda, right? In Bermuda.
Bermuda was beautiful. You guys were doing it.
We felt, yes, let's do it. But I'm promising you, it made no sense because I'm like, okay, we go to the doctor. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just go for the follow-up just to check on my stuff. And they're like, you're pregnant. That's impossible because then I'm trying to count. And I was like, well, they would be 13 months. And that doesn't make sense. And I was pregnant. And literally, like they say an elephant is pregnant 24 months. And that's how I felt. Because I had lost her 5, and then I'm pregnant again. I didn't give it, my body didn't even get time to recover. So I went right back into the doctors. And so the same OB that delivered my first baby, she was delivering my second baby. And I'm going to take an interlude here to say that had been her first loss ever for the doctor. And so I had to minister to her in the midst of this. And I said, we going to go with this second one. And if you got any inkling of fear and you can't deliver and you feel any type of fear, let me know. And I will have no hard feelings. I just have to get a new OB. And she said no. And so we said, okay, we're going to do it. We did it. And I'm going through the same process. And so now we're in pregnancy number 2 and we're doing it. We're going to doctor's appointments. They're making me see specialists. So they're checking a lot more this time because there was no conclusion as to why I lost my first baby. That's nothing. They said it was like getting struck by lightning. There was no explanation, which made it even more confusing. And went through all that with my second one, and the whole process. And I'm going to fast forward, and we get to the delivery room. Mind you, I switched hospitals and everything because I just couldn't go. I couldn't even, to this day, I don't step foot in the hospital that my first one was in. And we get to delivery. So here we go. It's like deja vu. Literally, I don't know if I was teleported back into the place and I go, no, God, this can't happen. And he kept telling me, this is not happening. It's not going to be the same thing. You have to do it. And I'm telling you, the enemy has speak to you, and I'm in the midst of giving birth. And I'm telling you, I'm not speaking it out, but my husband can see it going in my head. And he leans down and he whispers and he says, you can do this. This is not happening, right? And he didn't know. He didn't know what I was thinking, but I'm experiencing the whole thing all over again. And it's like, God, you got to do this. And I push, and this baby comes out screaming and eyes open. 2 things I never got to experience with heaven. She never screamed. Her eyes never opened. And it was just an emotional experience. And the power of God's promises, seeing it and living back to back, and so close back to back. Ciela was born March 3rd, 2019. So
wow, less than a year.
Yes. So she was born March 3rd, 2019, and her name is Ciela Joy, and Ciela means heaven. So I named my daughter after her sister. And as soon as she was born, she always looked up. Look up. I'm like, wow. She must be playing with heaven. Like always in there. And but God did it. And he continues to do it. And the promise of God, that I feel like we live this story for a reason. So many people, because of what happened to heaven and everything, people kept talking to us. And they still talk to us. I wrote a book. In the midst of it. It was part of my process of healing to explain and show that God is still good. I didn't write the whole book. I wrote a chapter in the book. Let me specify. But God is
the
still
beginning
good.
of writing a whole book, right?
And just showing people that you have to trust God's promises and you have to lean into him in the storm, and in the times when you don't think. And like Jeannie said, I think it's the best thing. It was, I had Isaiah 43, and I think it's Isaiah 43:9. It says, "See, I'm doing a new thing," and that was my scripture for Ciela. See, I'm doing a new thing. Do you not see it? That's what it says. Do you not see it? I said, Lord, no, Lord, I don't see it, Lord. He said, but I'm doing a new. I'm paying. And I'm like, are you, Lord? You have to be doing a new thing. And I leaned on that scripture, and it brought me Ciela. And 7 weeks ago,
praise the Lord.
2 years later, 7 weeks ago, I gave birth to another girl. Her name is Tahila. And it's just promises on promises. And so God, when God says He's going to bless you above, beyond than you can imagine, all these things, it's just it's so amazing to watch God work. And now I experience, and I know my husband experiences, we experience God so differently than we ever did.
Yeah.
Of that. And while it was tough to go through, I thank God. I thank God. And I can say that now, 3 years later. I thank God for the experience. I thank God for the experience, because you can't tell me my God can't deliver. You can't tell me my God can't give me what He says He will do, because I lived it. And that, for me, is the testimony enough for my life. So thank you for letting me share Heaven's story.
Listen,
can I share something?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of park on that, because I know if people are watching this, chances are they probably have experienced this or grappling with it right now. But something my sister just said that was so important. She got closer to God. I got closer to God. And I know when tragedy happens, sometimes what we're tempted to do is run away from God because we blame God. But the truth is, none of our pain is in vain.
Yes.
None of it is wasted. None of it is in vain. I say this to our ministry now, when I testify or I talk to people, and it sounds crazy. And that's the difference between somebody that's following after Christ and somebody that's just living in the natural. But I'm grateful for what I've been through. 3 times I have 3 children that have died. I feel like 3 pieces of my heart are literally missing. Like, I feel like they're in heaven with God because they left. That level of grief and tragedy and how it forced me to cling to God is what helped me get through 2020. The hell, that was 2020. Right. And the thing, and my pastor's been saying this. He's like, if you don't cling to God now, you will drift. And that's what happens. Our pain, we have a choice whether we cling or we drift. And when you drift, I mean, I've drifted before, but before I was even a Christian, I know what life without God is like. And I was suicidal all the time. So I know how empty and lonely that is. But when you go through tragedy like this and you cling to God and God gives you words like He did for both of us to hold on to, and it gave us life to just keep believing. And I just want to encourage anybody out there, and I know this is even real to right here, to right now. You've probably had a loss. Just know your pain is not in vain. And you might not want nothing to do with God, but God is the one that gives us the strength to keep going. He gives us the guidance that we need for the next steps. And He is a promise keeper. And I just really want to encourage, the most frustrating thing for me too is I had 3 miscarriages, kept going to doctors, kept going to specialists. They told me, there's nothing wrong with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong. You're perfectly healthy.
There's nothing wrong. And that's how you know it's the Lord. Yeah. That's how you know, not the Lord taking your children, but the Lord doing something through you.
Yeah. And I was so frustrated. I was like, let there be something wrong at least.
Right. The explanation, some type of explanation.
Closure, some type of something. And, and I just want to commend you for sharing. And, there's people here I know that are going to share too once they hear our stories. But we're not alone. A lot of us go through this. And the strength that it brings forth in us is something that is unmatched, So let's just stay connected, stay together, and stay believing. God answers.
Absolutely.
He answers.
Absolutely. Yes, ladies. Whew, thank you so much for sharing that. Like I said, I know it's difficult. But I'm so glad that you all are so determined to give God glory in this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you weren't, you wouldn't be here. Like, what's the point, you know? And so I'm so thankful that you all have a relationship with Jesus, and you two have helped me. So I said it before, and I'll say it again. I've had a miscarriage. In April 20th is when I found out. Apparently, I guess like you, Jeannie, like the baby just stopped developing, and the baby eventually didn't have a heartbeat. And so like you, I went to the doctor. uh 6 weeks in of my pregnancy, there was no heartbeat, and so the doctor said, oh, it's too early, come back in 2 weeks. So in those 2 weeks we prayed. And I believe, like you, Jeannie, like, oh, I think you, Shanay, as well, like, I'm like, oh, that happens to people, why would that happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
And I hear it all the time. Like, you hear about this all the time. It's very common. Well, actually, miscarriage is very common. I've
Mm-hmm.
heard about miscarriage a lot. And so I said, okay, when we get there in the 2 weeks, it was August 20th, the day before my daughter's first birthday. I found out that once again, there's no heartbeat. And the doctor is my friend, and I saw it on her face before she said anything. I think she was trying
Mm-hmm.
to, have bedside manner and be
Mm-hmm.
cautious and caring about how she said it. But her initial reaction was on her face. And she said, this is a bad pregnancy, Janelle. And I'm like, what is a bad pregnancy? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard the word bad with pregnancy before. And I realized, I looked at the numbers, and it happens to a lot of people. And so I think for us, it was more of the idea of not moving forward. And to be honest, I don't even know how I got pregnant, like you, Shanay. Like, I wasn't even sure how I got pregnant. That's the funny part about it, because I'm
Yeah.
like, we were using protection, actually, because we were trying not to get pregnant at the time. And so
So,
we were like, okay, all right, well, God
Mm-hmm.
bless us with another child. Let's go. We were excited. And so we found out that happened. The beauty of it is, yes, I felt God was in and through all of it. Like, I felt like he was with us the whole time. It was the day before my daughter's birthday. I was so excited about her birthday that I was so excited and grateful for her that, yes, I was hurting, but I was just so grateful at the same time. So it was like this grief and this gratefulness at the same time, and just being thankful for her and her life. And so, yeah, so I just know that, like, I think for me, it's also easier because I've heard of you two stories prior to me having my miscarriage. And that is a
Mm-hmm.
big deal. Like, that's why we titled it "You Are Not Alone, Sis," because I think maybe years ago, a lot of women just felt alone and felt like there was something
Mm-hmm.
wrong with their bodies, because
Oh
they
yeah.
didn't because they didn't hear of other women going through this. But because of people like yourselves, and I've had other friends that told me in confidence, like, I've had miscarriages, or I've never heard of anybody in my family, like, and going through this, but I've heard of friends being very transparent and sharing that. And because of that, I felt like I didn't feel like something was wrong with me. Because
mm-hmm.
at
Mm-hmm.
first there was that temptation of feeling like something was wrong. And so, like I said, like you and all of us said, it's so important to share the story so others can hear it. A lot of the questions I had, you answered already in somewhat of your story, but I do want to ask, which is similar to what I hope I'm saying this, Talia is asking. So we have a chat. People who are watching are, because we're live, they're watching and they're answering questions. So she asks, how do you overcome the fear of loss after experiencing multiple losses? So that's what the question I had was, what made you continue to try? Like for you, Shanay, you said, you didn't know for sure, but you had this courage to move forward. And you even told the doctor, hey, if you're not ready, we had somebody else. And I love that,
Yeah.
so what made you like continue to move forward in trying, or continue to move forward and even believe in God, because
Yeah. Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
said, most people would probably run away from him, but if you know
Mm-hmm.
him, you want to run to him and you want that comfort from him. So anyway, what made you like move forward and not move not try again, you know, because you could have
So
just not tried again.
I could have, and but first of all, I feel like God knows me, right? I'm an athlete, also. That I have a background in
Yeah.
athletics. So I'm a competitor. I'm this, you know. So I think that gives me this person. I will not lose. Like we're gonna
Right.
do that. And I feel like God knew He had to slap me with a child right away. He wasn't going. We was going back to back. Like we wasn't. He was not gonna let me soak. He was not going. God knows what you can handle, and I firmly
Yeah.
believe He did this to me on purpose. Like
Mhm.
I still don't know how I got pregnant. He had to do it, and when I found out, I still was shocked. I said no. I kept looking at the screen in the doctor's office, so I never experienced like the doctor coming in and saying that there's no heartbeat. It was like the reverse for me. It's like another shot. It's like, huh? No, no.
Mhm.
There's a heartbeat in there. No, no, no. Was she there when? So I thought she was there when heaven was there. Like was she sleeping and she wanted to come
Yeah.
out later? Like she a twin. Technically, they're like Chinese twins or something because that's how close together they're born.
Oh, Irish twins.
Irish twins, yeah. And I just couldn't fathom. But the fear. This is what you have to. I had to. It's like your mind. Your mind. You have to speak to that fear, and to the enemy consistently. And once you. And this is it. Like at the end of the day, I'm all in or I'm all not. My husband says I'm 0 to 100. Either I'm not liking it or I'm all in. And once I decided that I trusted God, I was all in. So it went out the window. It went out the window for me not to say, "Oh God, are you gonna do this to me again?" And yes, but I had to consistently tell myself, "Lord, this is in your hands. You said, now you gave me this child again. This is your child."
Right.
And I mean, I was speaking like you get some holy gangster. After heaven, I felt like I got a holy gangster to me, and I was like, "Lord God, listen, 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 listen. You gotta do this." And yes, I had moments of doubt, but then I'm like, "All right, now God, this is back on you. You're not gonna let me look crazy." And so I started speaking confident, and I said, "God is not gonna make me fool because this is your baby. This is your thing." And when I tell you I went all in, we went all in. And so we started doing that. And it really, really was God, and God kept encouraging. And because we sought him, sought after him. And he didn't give me a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was grieving, but I had no chance. I was like, okay, God, I gotta be right for this next baby. That's kind of how
True.
Mhm.
it really happened. And the Lord really, it's just leaning into the Lord, like speaking to that fear. It's a consistent battle. There are books, obviously. There's books. I read a book by Levi Lusko, if no one knows, because I couldn't find anything. Like it was all talking about miscarriages. No one talked to me about
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
full pregnancy. And literally, I had a woman come to me, a coworker, and who were named names, come to me and say she lost same as me. And I said, what? And I know this woman. I know this woman 5 years now, and she has 5 kids. I
She
know
didn't
this.
say.
Never said anything. She said, I lost full term, just like you. And I said, huh?
Ooh.
And it brought
Wow.
people to speak to me and tell me this. And then Levi Lusko, they lost an infant to an asthma attack when she was grown. And so I read his book. I was reading books and I was trying to find, but everybody kept saying, you have to trust God, right? You have to
Yeah.
believe that God and trust his promises. And that's really what I did. And once he said I was having another child, that's all I needed to hear.
You jumped right in. You had to.
For me, I'm gonna be real. I was afraid every time. You know, after the first traumatic experience and everything, like every doctor's appointment was traumatic. Going to the OBGYN and seeing all these pregnant women was traumatic. Doing foster care, you know, because we started to take courses to do foster care and adoption, and hearing that these people who abuse their kids are allowed to have kids, all of it was traumatic. And you know, every time, and it really was God. You know, I only tried again because I felt God kept that in me, like, you are going to have a kid. Like, and that's really the reason why I kept trying. And that, you know, when God tells me something, I hold him to his word. But that doesn't mean that in my natural reaction I was
Right.
not terrified. And just like you, Shana, I felt broken. I was like, something is wrong with me. Like, it must be me because God led me to do it. My husband, obviously, I'm getting pregnant. So it's on me. And then the doctor does say, well, it's the wife, it's the mother's fault if you know you're getting pregnant, because that's what they tell you.
Really?
Yeah.
They
They're
said that
like,
to
if
you?
you yeah,
Fault
if you
is
get pregnant, well, it would be something in her. It would be something in you because you are getting pregnant. So you feel even more broken. Um, and I was afraid. And to be honest, to my son now, I can't even believe I'm saying my son. Like, I'm still in that, I'm still in shock.
a
Like,
month.
it hasn't registered to me that I was pregnant for 9 months, that I gave birth, and that I have a kid because of the trauma that I went through. Like, my body was in
Yeah.
so much trauma that this pregnancy, I'm gonna be real, Talia, to your question, I wish I could have enjoyed it. I wish I could have been like, woohoo, I'm pregnant and this is gonna work out. No, I held my breath until I heard his breath, till I heard him
Ooh.
scream. I held my breath. And my own baby shower, I kept it real. I was like, I'm so happy you guys are here, but I'm gonna be real. Like, it's hard. It's hard to celebrate. Like, until I hear him breathe, I won't breathe. And that's just what it was for me. And the Lord used CC Winans' Believe for It, that song. When I first found out I was pregnant, I was falling apart in my car, and I heard the radio and it had just came out, and I knew God was speaking to me, and I'm like, you know what? I'm afraid, but I'm gonna believe. I'm
Yeah.
afraid, but I'm gonna believe. So you can be afraid and you can even experience the trauma of it, but believe. And
Yeah.
my first, when I saw my 3D ultrasound for the first time, when I saw my baby's face, get in the car, I opened the pictures to look. The song is on the radio again. I weep.
Oh my
I'm in the
gosh.
labor room. I'm in this labor room, terrified. I told the lady I had to have a C-section because he was breech. I told my doctor who was delivering my child, they're like, "Are you excited?" And I said, "Until he breathes, I won't be able to breathe. I've had too much loss." So it was an exciting moment for everybody else. And then I said that, and they were all like, "Don't worry, it's gonna be good. Don't worry." And I hear him, and she opens me up, and my husband's playing the playlist in my headphones so that I'm not freaking out. He presses next. It's a random playlist. Believe for It comes out, and my son comes out, and I hear him
Oh my
scream for the
gosh.
first time. So I just
Wow.
want to say it's scary and it's hard and fear might come in, but believe. Let's hold God to his word, like our sister said. Let's hold him to his word. And that's what I would say to that.
Girl, because of you in that song, you bring so Jeannie is in a group chat with me, and she shared this song, and this whole story. I started listening to this song and the whole album, really. I started listening to the whole album, but specifically that song, because there's a lot of things that I'm believing God for. And we're trying now for our second one. And you know, I just pray that it all works out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I just pray that it all works out. I pray that, he or she is born healthy. And as of right now, I don't think about it too much, but I know once I get into that doctor's office, well, I shouldn't say that. I might go back to that day,
Yeah.
once I'm in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
doctor's office, but I will pray, and we will be praying, and like you said, just leaning into God and believing him for it.
Yeah.
My mom had a dream that my daughter has a sister who's like, I don't know, she was like, she saw a picture of the baby, my daughter now, and another girl that I would have, and she's like maybe 2 or 3 years younger. So I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
know, maybe that's what it is, but I believe God for whatever He
We're
wants to do.
believing for it.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I can't even like, I'm not even gonna go into another question, but I because we only have 4 minutes, but I'm so thankful for you ladies. Thank you for being brave enough to share your story. And thank you for being brave enough to continue to believe God, because you could, like you said, you could have chose the opposite. I just want to thank everyone for getting on. We have a lot of, you be able to see it once you watch it, the playback. Some people said this gave me chills. This is amazing. That song blessed my heart so much. Wow, thank you so much, ladies. Um, and a lot of wow, only Jesus, yes, Jesus, amen. You know, a lot of so good. This is so good. And so thank you, ladies, for being on. I will keep in touch with you all. And when the next one comes, I will let you know when I have another child.
That's right. A miracle.
Because I
And if
believe for it.
Yeah, and if anybody out there that does watch this and they want to connect with us, I mean, you can search me
Yes.
online at JeannieO.com or on social media, but reach out to us. Let's
Yeah.
be the support for each other because it helps.
Yes, it does help. And Shanay, how can we get in contact with you?
My full name, so as Shanay.Y.Howard. It's on Instagram. I do Facebook, my same name, but you inbox me, anything, and get in touch with me. I wrote that book to keep speaking the truth and keep getting that testimony out, because there's so many people, and I love that you guys had this show and this talk, and because you're not alone. You're not alone. And transparency will heal the kingdom if we be transparent. It will heal our things to themselves and battling mental health and battling all this, because we're keeping it inside. And our new generation of the church, the more we continue to speak our truths and be transparent, we will heal generations after generations.
Yeah, we have to share.
It's share. There's so many ways to share.
So tell me the name of your book, and then Jeannie, tell me the name of, and then, well, I know the name of your book, but share about your book, and then we got to get off.
Oh, the name of my book is The Reveal. The name of my book is The Reveal. I, along with other authors, 10 of us, we are sharing stories very similar, not all pregnancies, but triumphs and tragedies. How we sought the Lord and continue to do so. And we show them how in this book. And it's called The Reveal. So you look on my page.
The Reveal. Okay. And Jeannie?
The Reveal.
Yeah, for me, I have a book called What is Happening to Me? And it's how to defeat your unseen enemy. So what is happening to me? And it's basically to help people open up their spiritual eyes and be able to discern what's God, what's the enemy, when to fight, stuff like that. But JeannieO.com is Jeannie with a J, JeannieO.com. You could connect to me. You could message me directly on there. But yeah, let's stay connected. Okay. We're praying for everybody out there.
Yeah, because this is, it's a battle, and the Lord has already won the war. So
yeah,
we got to connect with him and with each other. With that being said, thank you so much, ladies. Once again, do remember, y'all, that we are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, LifewithTrayandJea. J is JEA. That's the beginning of my name. Have a good night, ladies, and have a good night, everyone. Take care.
God bless.
God bless.
God bless.